Hi there, welcome everyone to another edition of the Beer Garden podcast, and we're looking at 3 races at Sha Tin on Sunday. How is everyone today? We've got Charene and Sara and Joe. How are we all? Are we all raring to go?
We are.
All good.
Looks like a difficult card, doesn't it? I thought this time, but we'll do our best. Before we start the 3 races that we're looking at in particular, I wanted to ask how you study the form when you have horses that are maybe debutants, newcomers in the race. Do you have a particular strategy for how you bet on these particular races? We'll start with Sara.
They're always difficult because you just aren't quite sure how they're going to take to the track. And what's more difficult, I would say, in the States, which is one thing I wish we did, is I wish we did these trial runs. I think I've said that before on our show, because then you kind of get familiar with how that horse is going to run. But when it comes to really looking at a car, there's a lot of first-time starters. I typically look at their workouts and how they're taken to the track, how their ratings are within the workout group. And I also look at their breeding. And I do that to see, okay, well, if they're running this horse at, a sprint distance, okay, well, what does their breeding look like for a sprinter? Usually it's kind of like throwing darts at the card when you have a field of first-time starters, but I've gotten pretty lucky. But those are the 2 main things I really keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that's interesting. What about you, Joe?
Oh, I do a lot of different things because, it's pretty much throwing darts at a dartboard. As far as form goes, I look at the pedigree, see if they're good at distances, see if their progeny is good, if the kids are doing any better, if they had an older brother that won a big stakes race, stuff like that. Look at the form, look at different times, see how they've done in trials or see how they've done in workouts, if they handled them well, if they needed to be shaken up, to wake them up. Equipment changes, if they're deciding, they worked out with the blinkers on, now they're taking the blinkers off. Is that going to be something that, you don't want to put your money on at first because, they're trying to do something new. But I think the main thing out of all the things, and it's kind of a disadvantage if you're doing it race by race, or if you're doing it in a multi-race wager, is actually looking at them. Jenny Chapman does a really, really good job of her information, of telling the public what she sees, because she's a really good horsewoman. Especially, you look at Australia, they have like Jane Ivel and also Lizzie Jelfs, who's not a part of Sky Racing anymore. And they tell you, what you need to look for as far as a debutante or a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old that's going to be out on the track. Hong Kong's a little different because a Hong Kong debutante is, they come from another country, and you could consider them a debutante there, or if they were bred somewhere else and they brought them over to Hong Kong and see how they do, if they're really good on the trials at Chung Fa or Sha Tin or wherever the case may be. But I think it is a little mixture of looking at the form and actually looking at them in the yard. Those are the main things that I would think is a big plus to get an advantage on everybody else.
Okay, that's kind of it's a bit similar, isn't it, Sara, with your own thinking, I guess, And what about you? Sorry, Sara, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, it is pretty similar.
Yeah. What about you, Charene? What do you look for?
Yeah, because for me in Hong Kong, just like Joe said, Hong Kong will be a bit different from other countries like the US or the UK, because we don't have the breeding industry here. So all the horses are imported from other countries, mainly from Australia, New Zealand, UK and Ireland. Maybe for the horses that already have the racing experience overseas, I have to check their form. It would be better that if they already have some experience over some fast ground or especially some right-handed race course, because in Hong Kong the weather is always good and the ground is always fast, and also at Sha Tin and Happy Valley they are both clockwise direction, so it is important for the horses that already have this kind of experience before. And for the new horses that do not have racing experience overseas, I have to check their pedigree. I think the pedigree is quite important, but apart from that, I will also check about how their track work and also their barrier trials. To me, I especially like the horses that can jump fast, because in Hong Kong, no matter for the sprint races or for the longer distances, mainly the horses staying in front will have a better chances to win. So I especially like the horse that can show really good gate speed at the barrier trials. So that's my strategy to looking for some good chances for debutants.
Well, I think I'm glad I'm asking the questions, because that's pretty much an amalgamation of my answer, pretty much. I tend not to actually really try and follow races that have debutants. I normally go for sort of more like handicap races, but I suppose in Hong Kong that's the only sort of jurisdiction that I actually quite enjoy looking at the various trials. And it's interesting, isn't it? Also interesting, I guess, the stable form, and also I think visually as well. Sometimes it's hard to get a handle on just how good a trial is. You might see some very good horses in the trial, but how hard are they being pushed? You know, it's interesting, isn't it? And but I tend to like, as we'll shortly coming to race 5, a horse that I do like that won this trial and actually spread eagled the field. There must have been a good 200 meters between first and last, and I think, how can that be a bad horse? So yes, it's interesting finding out all the different I suppose the clues to how you can think ahead and find the good debutants. Well, we start at race number 5 this time. This is called the Pak Tam Chung Handicap. It's a class 4 competitive little race. It's over 1,000 meters or 5 furlongs, whichever you prefer. I was always growing up, I was always a 5 furlongs man, but as I become more cosmopolitan and start looking at American racing, Hong Kong and France and everywhere else, I begin to think 1,000 meters is just as nice. So, Sarah, who do you like in race number 5?
Well, speaking of first-time starters, I'm going with the 7, Happy Fat Cat. Jumping out of barrier 8, we got Karis Teton and the irons here, which is great. He's been working. He worked him out in his last trial run, in which he showed incredible form over the Sha Tin course. And I think that really just said a lot. I think this horse is really gearing up for a very solid debut. And coming out at the 5 furlongs, I think is going to be great. So I'm very excited. I mean, just the 3 trial runs he has under his belt, he showed really great improvement. So he could be a very strong first-time starter here.
So Sarah goes for Happy Fat Cat, a very nice horse indeed. Tony Millard, Karis Teton on board. Joe, who caught your eye for race 5?
I chose the number 6, Gorgeous Batility. He's going to be a big price, I'm sure, because his last run wasn't that great. I in particular actually liked his run, because in the 1,000 meters he was up on the speed and then just faded. So I think his fitness is going to be a little bit better in the next race, and he has Vincent Ho, so it's not going to be too bad. He's out of deep field, so if we're looking at another pedigree angle, deep field, you know, Skyfield, the one that won the Hong Kong sprint, and I saw all of his other progenies doing pretty well everywhere else. So I'm going to take a chance. This is going to be the value bet, because if he could improve off of his last run and staying within the pace, I don't know, you know, he drew 14, but it is the 1,000 meters, so they're up the straight. So it's not that big a deal as to trying to get across them over on the turn, because they're straight. So I'm going to take a chance here with Gorgeous Vitality on this race.
So Joe goes for Gorgeous Vitality. I must admit, I thought his nice chance as well. As you say, he was with the leaders until fading back into 9th behind Sparkling Dolphin. He's had 42 days break, maybe to strengthen up, and he comes from a good barrier, drawn 14. He's on the outside rail, which I never think is a bad place to be. Charene, do you have a similar choice to one of the others?
Yes, my pick is same as Sarah. I also like the debutant, number 7, Happy Fat Cat. First of all, for his pedigree, he is signed by Sara. I think that his progenies are doing quite well in Hong Kong. And also for his dam, the mare Born to Blush is a Group 3 place getter in Australia. So I believe that this horse has quite a good class. And also, Happy Fat Cat also has an half brother that is now racing in Macau, who is having quite a good good form over there. So I believe that this horse racing in Hong Kong, he can also adapt to this environment. And apart from the pedigree and over his 2 barrier trials before, he has quite good gate speed, and then he can also keep until the end. So I think that this time making his debut over the straight course, which is 5 furlong, a short distance, is really suitable for him. So I will go for number 7, Happy Fat Cat.
So Charene goes for Happy Fat Cat, Joe goes for Gorgeous Vitality, and it's a bit of a Happy Fat Cat loving because I'm going for Happy Fat Cat as well. It was a very nice, his latest trial was very nice. He beat Kilindini and he wasn't disgraced. He was 5th in a nice Class 3 won by Crossford. So an interesting horse, Happy Fat Cat. I just thought his last trial looked really good. He spread out the field. He was a narrow winner of the trial, but he just looks like a forward kind of horse, doesn't he? So we're hoping it's not a catastrophe, and we hope we're purring when he wins race number 5. We now go on to race number 7. It's the Czech King Handicap. It's a Class 2. We go up in quality, 1,600 metres or 8 furlongs. Sarah, who did you like?
This was a really tough field for me to handicap. I have, if you saw my notes, I have all these notes scribbled of all these different horses. I struggled with. I think the 2 looks like a really solid horse. I think the 5 is really, really impressive. My only concern with the 2 would be the distance. As I think, as far as breeding goes, he really, I think, needs a shorter distance. But with all that said, I landed on the 4, Master Delight, with Morera in the irons. He's just shown incredible progression. The end of last year, he really made an impression on in his competition. And I just think he really found his solid footing at the 1,600 meter distance. So it was really hard for me not to pick him. And he also is going to be my best bet of the night as well. He's jumping out of barrier 7, which I think is almost sets up beautifully for him. So it was Master Delight is where I ended up in this race.
There it goes for Master Delight, number 4. What about you, Joe? Do you have a particular bet on this particular race?
If that was what you're trying to get it to, yeah, the Irishman down the bottom, number 9. I chose him because I looked at his last previous runs. Very honest horse. He'll run and he'll just keep running to try to catch everybody, no matter how far back he is. And in Sha Tin, he drew barrier 11 in the last race in a class, looked like a Class 3. So now he's stepping up to a Class 2. They're thinking that if they take the weight off, they could probably do something better with him. And, he ran behind Hungry Heart, who was a Group 1 winner in Rosehill or in Australia. And he's had good form in Australia, and I like to pick these horses that have had good form in Australia that translates over to Hong Kong, and the Irishman has that. And I think that going that extra distance, because he did place 2nd in a Group 3 in Australia, I think he has another chance. I think he could take a crack at this field. It's a little bit tougher field because he was $31 last time out. And then he's going to probably be a lot shorter, but I think that he does have a chance in this race, especially with the weight. So I'm going to go number 9, the Irishman.
So Joe goes for number 9, the Irishman. I do apologise to Irish people worldwide for my terrible attempt at speaking Irish there or having an Irish accent. An interesting horse, the Irishman, one of 5 4-year-olds showing their credentials for the forthcoming Classic Mile. So it'll be very interesting. Charene, who do you like in race number 7?
Yeah, here we can see that there are 5 4-year-olds in this field. And I think that maybe every year in January, the 4-year-olds have to fight for their chances to get into the 4-year-old Classic Series in Hong Kong. So I will go for number 8, Rocket Spade, because currently his rating is only XT2. And I think that if you want to participate in the 4-year-old Classic Series, he has to get more marks of the rating. So maybe this will be a good chance for him, because we see that before coming to Hong Kong, Rocket Spade is the New Zealand Derby winner last year, and then after arriving in Hong Kong, he's doing quite well. Last time out, he showed a really good turn of foot to finish 4th on his debut in Hong Kong. And recently, I quite like his gallop with the stablemates Telecom Missile and Jazz Angel, and I think that he is doing quite well recently in the morning, and he's progressing quite well. And then this time he will will be ridden by Derek Leung. Derek is quite a jockey that specializing in riding some back markers. So this time only carrying 190 pounds, it would be quite a good chance for him. So I will be keen on number 8, Rocket Spade.
Rocket Spade for Charene, number 8. This is the only race where we all have different opinions as well. So as Charene alludes to, 5 4-year-olds showing the credentials for the forthcoming Classic Mile. I'm a Single Man, Master Delight, SG Tourbillon, Rocket Spade and the Irishman. And the Irishman, the Rocket Spade, interesting, New Zealand Derby winner and 4th I'm a Single Man last time over an inadequate 1400 metres, better up the 200 metres this time. Well, I went for a 5-year-old in Beluga, and as Sarah said, it was a very tricky contest. I must admit, when I looked at your selections, I also had Happy Fat Cat, and I'd also half scribbled down Master Delight. I thought, do I really want to match every single selection? And I thought, no, just if you like it, pick it. And then I started looking at it again and I thought, do you know what? I'm actually going to go for Beluga because I like him. And all 4 wins have come at Sha Tin, over shorter. But he's a nice horse. And his last 2 runs at Happy Valley have been 3rd to Sunny Star and 2nd to Fafa. That's decent form. And he's coming back to his favourite track, David Hall Trains and Matthew Chadwick. So just to recap on race number 7, Sarah has gone for number 4, Master Delight. Joe goes for number 9, the Irishman. Charene goes for number 8, Rocket Spade. And I go for the 5-year-old, number 5, Beluga. This brings us now to race number 10. It's the Pak Tamau Handicap. It's a class 3 over 1400 metres or 7 furlongs. And it's the finale on the card. Sarah, who did you like for this?
I like the 2 Private Rocket. All my notes said speed, speed, speed. This horse is fast. I like that he's jumping out of barrier 6. And what really excites me the most is we got Jerry Chow back aboard. Now, this jockey got him a win in April last year, and then I got him a really nice 2nd place on the all-weather track at Sha Tin in July. So to have him back in the irons here, I think is really going to help steer this horse to a pretty solid victory. He's been showing just great form. He's tough. I mean, he's tough. He's had kind of the end of last year. He, was a little bit all over the place. But he's tried class 2s. Now will be his 3rd time doing a class 3 back to back. So we'll see how he does. But I think he's coming in with great form.
Sarah goes for number 2, Private Rocket. A pretty good choice, I think. Drawn 6. He's been keeping good company lately. 5th to Navas 2 and 4th to Master Hero. Douglas White trains. Jerry Chow taking his valuable £3 off. Joe, who did you go for in race number 10?
Race number 10, I went for number 10. Patier, I think that's how you pronounce it. Actually out of Flower Alley. So people that are familiar with American racing knows Flower Alley was the sire of I'll Have Another. And He did really well in South Africa. He had good form there, and he was 4th in a Grade 1 or Group 1 against Golden Ducat, who I think is going to race this Saturday in the Queen's Plate. So looking at other races before that, he's had runs with Navas 2, whom Steve just mentioned, and Captain Lynn almost beating him. Fa was another one. So I think that with João Moreira especially getting the ride and Teton not on it anymore, I think that's going to be a huge plus for him. And I don't think barrier 8 is a concern, and the weight's not going to be a concern either. So I chose Pater, number 10 for race 10.
Number 10, Pater for Joe. I don't think draw is going to be much of a problem too. They seem to win from anywhere if they're good enough, don't they? Charene, who did you like?
Yeah, here in the final race, I got another race that I have the same selection with Sarah. I also like number 2, Private Rocket. I quite like his form over this course and distance, especially in class 3. He is quite competitive here. And recently, last time out, he was beaten by Navas 2 and Peking Victory. I think that it was quite solid. And then this time he will be ridden by Jerry Chow again. And I think that this would be quite a good chance for him. And recently, he came back to Hong Kong after training in Chongfa. And he was doing quite well over there. And I believe that this time he is quite fit recently. And then back to this distance and Jerry on board again, I'm quite confident that he can have good performance in the final race on Sunday. So I will go for number 2, Private Rocket.
Private Rocket. Number 2, drawn 6, Charene and Sarah in harmony. And it's boys versus girls here because I go with Joe with number 10, Per Terre. As I said, fourth in Navas 2 and on his last run. And that was a pretty good run because the Navas 2 has won again. And the second packing victory won impressively last time. Tony Merlard and Joe Moreira. The Merlards never seem to be out of form, the very good trainer. So yes, of an interesting, Sara and Charene go for Private Rocket, number 2. And Joe and I go for Per Terre, number 10. Interesting to see who gets bragging rights at the end of the meeting. Now we come to the enjoyable part as well. This is the best bets powered by Racequant. And we start with Sara. What is your best bet for the meeting?
My best bet is Master Delight, race 7, the 4. I think he's just extremely strong with his progression he's really made. So I had to stick him in as my best bet.
So Sara goes for Master Delight. I think that's a very good choice. He had to work very hard last time. It was no disgrace being beaten by Fast Most Furious. And of course, he came out and was a very respectable 4th to Zabrowski in the January Cup. So the form looks pretty good. Joe, who did you go for your best bet powered by Racequant?
Best bet's going to be in race number 4, another number 10 Dragon Pride with Matthew Chadwick. He tried to go step up into the class 4s and just continuously drop down the ratings until he reached, I guess, a low point or the rock bottom because he was 52 kilos and then started getting firsts and thirds after a whole bunch of terrible forms. So I think Dragon Pride is in form now. He's won on the 1400. I think that's where they want to put him against everybody in the class 5. You know, class 5 is going to be a tough race because anything could win. So I think he might get a little bit of value as well with Dragon's Pride. So I'm going to go Dragon Pride, race number 4, horse number 10.
Race number 4, horse number 10, Dragon Pride for Joe. And actually, for my blog that I do, I've actually gone for Dragon Pride as well in race 4. Lightly raced. I think he's improving. A very nice horse. Charene, who did you go for your best bet powered by Racequant?
Yeah, my best bet will be in race 7, and as I just mentioned, that the 4-year-old in this race is quite competitive. Master Delight is quite an interesting one, but I will go for another 4-year-old, number 8, Rocket Spade, because I think that after his debut, he is improving right now, and I think that the speed here may be a bit fast, so maybe it would be better for him to show a good turn of foot. So my best bet in race 7, number 8, Rocket Spade.
I'm very much looking forward to this Sara Charene showdown in race number 7. Looking forward to that. I decided to go for my best bet powered by Racequant. I went for race number 6, Pan's Prince, number 1 on the card. He won on debut, a nice debut from Smart Wong Choi. His next 2 runs, he's been a beaten favourite, but hopefully he can return to winning ways. I didn't think this looked the strongest of class 4s, actually. There's winning forms thin on the ground. I didn't think the debutants looked too strong. Smart Wong Choi is £6 better off with selection for a neck beating. And it's ironic that he's actually one of the main threats because he's a maiden after 19 starts. August Moon is the only last start winner, but he'll find this tougher up in class. And Turbo Power, he won on debut, but he's been nothing from 7 since. And Infinity Wind's been a favourite of mine, but he's becoming a bit frustrating. And his draw's not very good. He's drawn in 11. So I'm hoping that Moreira can get Pan's Prince back to winning ways. So the best bet's powered by Racequant. We have Sara, Master Delight in number 4 in race 7. We have Joe with Dragon Pride, number 10 in race 4. Charene head-to-head with Sara. Rocket Spade, interesting horse in race 7, number 8. And for me, the top weight, Pan's Prince in race 6, and that's number 1. Now, finally, we come to the value bet. Sara, who did you like as your value bet?
I like, in race 2, the class 3, I like the number 1, Gold Chest. We got Matthew Puna on the irons. He's coming out of barrier 4. I feel like the last race of his you could really throw out. They tried him out on the all-weather. I don't think he took to it. In my opinion, I would just toss that race and really focus on his other PPs there on the turf. Now he's coming. They tried him out in class 2s and was just getting maybe a little bit above his head. So I really like that he's now back into a class 3, and he's just been performing well at Sha Tin. At this distance, on the turf, I think you're going to get a little bit of value on him because I think it's going to make the bettors a bit nervous seeing his previous races on a class 2 level and then his 12th place finish there at the all-weather track. But I think he's coming in great form. And I just really think this drop in class on the turf is going to benefit this horse quite a bit. So I'm taking 1 Gold Chest in race 2.
That's a rather enterprising choice from Sara there. Gold Chest, race 2, number 1. It's actually going back to September 2020 when you last won, of course, in distance, but the class angle's there, isn't it? It's a very nice horse. Joe, who did you go for as your value bet?
Value bet's going to be in race 5 with gorgeous validity or vitality. You know, he did race against Sparkling Dolphin, who ended up winning that race, and Sparkling Dolphin's in the same race again, or horse number 5. So I think with the 1,000 meters, the pedigree, the fitness, and all that considered, I think he does have a shot this time, especially drawn outside where he doesn't have to. He's only going to be in between a horse and a rail, so we'll see what happens.
There you go. Joe goes for gorgeous vitality in race number 5, horse number 6. If you can beat the fat cat, of course. And Charene, who did you like as the value bet?
Yeah, for my value bet, that will be in race 3, the class 3 over 6 furlong. I like another debutant here, number 6, double 6 pop. Check his form overseas. I quite like his form in Australia. He won on debut over there, ridden by Tommy Berry. And on the second start, he moved to Rose Hill for a high quality race. And he also finished 3rd behind some good competitors. And after arriving in Hong Kong, double 6 pop had 2 barrier trial here. And in both of the trials, he showed quite good speed, and then he could finish quite well. And then this time, because he will be jumping from gates 9, I think that his price would be quite good. But I don't think that the wide gate is a problem because he is the type of horse that he likes to stay outside. So maybe this time, if he can find a good position after jumping well, and then I believe that Matthew Poon on board can help the horse to stay in the best position for him. So I will be keen on number 6, double 6 pop in race 3.
Race 3 for Charene, double 6 pop, number 6. Charene very much liking the Tony Millard stable because you also went for Happy Fat Cat from the same stable as well. Well, I decided for my value bet, Run Cool. I'm being a bit naughty here. He might not be that big a price. Hopefully he'll get some value. I like the horse. He's in race 2. He's partnered by Harry Bentley. I just think he's got a very good chance here. He's for informed Frankie Law, and I think it's an interesting race. He was a good 5th last time to Carroll Street. He's a very nice horse, and it's interesting because Alcari and Metro Warrior were behind him earlier in the season. Alcari was ridden by a claimer. He's now ridden by Joe Moreira. I do think his fortune will improve for that. I still think he was 3rd last time out with Colin Wong. I still think that Joe Moreira is now booked, but I still think he'll be placed at best. I think 3rd place for Alcari. I'm being optimistic here. Metro Warrior is a very nice horse, but doesn't win as often as he should have. But I think he's won from 23. And Wild West Wing was very impressive last time, but that was Happy Valley. And he's back on the straight track at Sha Tin, and he's also up in class. So I just think that Run Cool is a very good chance. He's drawn 10, right next to the outside rail. And I think for a value bet, I think he could be the way to go. So a quick look at the value bets. For Sara, it's Gold Chest in race number 2. That's number 1. For Joe, it's Gorgeous Vitality. That's number 6 in race 5. For Charene, it's double 6 pop. Number 6 in race number 3. And for me, it's Run Cool in race number 3. And that's race number 2. And that's drawn number 10. So I think we've done it. We've picked all our horses, and I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Beer Garden. And we look forward to seeing you next week back at Happy Valley. Until then, thank you very much from all of us.